Hey there, and welcome to the Overcomers Overcoming Podcast. It is great to have you join us. This podcast series features those who have gained victory over a life encounter. With that life experience, we encourage those who are experiencing something that might seem to be insurmountable. We advance and encourage others by passing forward evaluated life experiences. We have three objectives in this podcast series. We want to encourage those who are engaged in any type of life encounter by offering to walk with you to help you gain victory over anything that might seem impossible. We want to share our experience to help you. Our second objective is to help you develop a confident resolve that there are multiple options to get past any life obstacle. It's a matter of thinking into the situation. Our third objective is to help you with critical thinking skills. If you are facing a dilemma resulting from a previous decision you wish you could reverse, we want to help you think into all of the facts and factors involved in making an informed decision. I'm Ron Cooper, founder of the Cooper Culture. I'm with my wife and business manager, Marty. Together, we are the Cooper Culture Company who is sponsoring this podcast series. Today, we feature Elaine Poland, who describes her story of dialysis, the 15 or so years of diagnoses, and that which led up to the current dialysis. We will learn she is a candidate for a kidney transplant. Interspersed with this podcast are excerpts from Dr. Brown, her nephrologist, who describes some of the things he mentions in a little bit more detail. Marty, what are some takeaways our listeners can gain from Elaine?
Ron, Elaine has this positive attitude about her life situation and is thankful through dialysis she's feeling so much better now.
There is some intrigue, there is some possible intrepidation about dialysis, but she says if you're facing that, do it. She has a great quality of life. Let's listen and learn together. Elaine, it's great to have you with us. Thank you for joining us. Our audience is going to be very interested in you and your perception of your experience with dialysis leading up to, and just any apprehensions you may have had. One of our purposes, actually two purposes, is to let the listener know what they can expect based on your experience. But then if we can help people possibly reduce apprehension about dialysis through your experience, we want to do whatever we can to help with that. But if I understand correctly, Elaine, you have been on dialysis for maybe 15 months or so. So you have 15 months of experience, but you have some number of years build up to this. Have I characterized that correctly?
Yes, you have, Ron. I've been going to dialysis since January of 2021. So about 15 months, like you said. And it was very scary to start. But boy, am I glad I did it. I feel so much better now than I did before I started dialysis. It has made a definite difference in my life.
Tell us about very scary. How would you describe that? Can you tell our listeners what that meant for you?
Well, you just don't really know what to expect. I had to go through surgery to have a graft put in my arm. And that wasn't, it wasn't that big of a deal, but they had to put an artificial vein in me because my veins were too small. The idea of having needles stuck in me, which I've never been very fond of having needles stuck in me. Once I got through that first treatment, and I won't lie, I cried a little bit. And the poor technician that was working on me, she didn't let that bother her. I don't cry anymore, and I'm happy to be there.
Great.
So,
thinking back to maybe a buildup of apprehension, you did not know what to expect, and so forth, I want to try to ask you a question projecting the person or addressing the person who may be facing dialysis, something similar to what you did. They are X months away from their first treatment. You said you didn't know exactly what to expect. In hindsight, would it have been better for you and I know this could be personality dependent, very different for any individual, but for you personally, Elaine, would it have been better for you? Do you feel you could have been better prepared had you known exactly what to expect?
I don't think you can ever know what to expect. I mean, really, until you live through it. For me, I guess because I'm a more hands-on person. But maybe if I'd have talked to people that have been through dialysis, that may have eased my apprehension. Because if you don't know anybody and you don't know what it's all about, other than what your doctor's telling you, and of course, the doctor's a little more technical than the average person, it might not have been so hard to do it. But I mean, I was prepared to do it because I really was very, very sick for a couple of years. I don't feel that way anymore. I didn't realize how sick I was. I'm feeling so much better. And I
Right.
attribute that to a dialysis.
All right, so that's good. For the
Mhm.
listener who may be wondering, is dialysis everything it's cracked up to be, and are you going to be better because of it and so forth? You would say with a resounding yes, just go through it. You will be better.
I say absolutely do it. Do not hesitate. It's well worth the time and effort that you have to put into getting there. The way I feel now compared to the way I felt a couple years ago is just a 180-degree turn.
I want to take it maybe one step at a time. You mentioned you had a graft installed into your arm because your vein was too small. Were you apprehensive about that, or did you overcome that because you knew the dialysis was the greater benefit and you would endure whatever had to come to get into a dialysis treatment? Can you explain that a little bit more?
What they put in is it's an artificial, and I'm not really sure of the technical terms for it, but and it connects your veins, and that's how they get the blood out and to clean your blood and to put it back in.
The dialysis itself, and you were a bit apprehensive, not knowing exactly what to expect. In hindsight, and I'm taking this incrementally, your thought process, your emotions, you were, it sounds as if, almost expecting the worst. And while nobody likes having a needle stuck in them, in the end result, it wasn't as bad as you had envisioned it could be. Am I summarizing that correctly?
That is correct.
Great.
It is not that bad. And in fact, most times you don't even feel the needles go in. So,
Okay.
and the staff where I go to for my dialysis are wonderful, wonderful people. And you tend to develop friendships and they make it a little more comfortable to go. And it's not that bad. It's an enjoyable place to go. You like seeing the staff, visiting. I spend my time usually playing on my iPad, playing games or doing puzzles. Some people sleep, others watch television, just whatever you want to do to pass that 4 hours.
That's good to know as well. Each
Mhm.
dialysis treatment, if treatment is the correct term, is about a 4-hour process.
For most people, yes. Some people have shorter times. I don't know why that is, and some have longer times. For me, my treatment time is a 4-hour dialysis. But when you first start, it starts like 2 hours, or it might have even started at an hour and then 2 hours. And, then it's a gradual building up to make sure, everything is going to work right.
So time on dialysis is always a touchy subject because everyone wants to spend as little time as possible at dialysis, which is natural. What your doctor's looking at are two things. First is your blood tests. The purpose of doing dialysis is to get your blood clean enough. Your blood tests are determining how long that's going to take. And the second piece of it is how you feel when the fluid gets removed. The slower fluid is taken off of you at dialysis, the better you feel. A longer treatment is generally going to allow you to feel better during and after your treatments. So those are the two things your doctor's looking at to try to figure out your treatment time: your blood tests and your fluid removal.
Is it 1 day a week treatment, or how frequently is
Oh,
it for
no.
you?
For me, it's 3 days a week. I go on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And I go in the afternoons. They have 2 shifts at the center I go to. One in the morning, like 7 in the morning, and we have to be there at 12:15.
Can you describe just very briefly what the hookup is? That's my term, that you have the graft, and I'm
Mhm.
going to believe, and I'm approaching this question having only a concept of, which may be entirely inaccurate, but you are hooked up to the dialysis machine,
Mhm.
and the blood and fluids are removed from you. The machine removes the fluids, and the blood goes back in a different port, I'm assuming. And pardon me if I've just butchered up the explanation.
You see, well, you have 2 needles, and one takes the blood out, and the other puts the blood in, and it runs through the dialysis machine, and somehow that machine cleans the blood. And I don't understand any of that, so I'm not good to, but that's my understanding of it. Puts it back in. Plus, at the same time, it's taking excess fluids off of your body. Your doctor and you determine what your dry weight, they call it dry weight, should be. So when you first get to the center, you weigh in, and then and everything is in metrics. So it's easier to figure it out. So you're weighed in, and then you deduct what should be your dry weight, and then you have to add 0.5 for the flush, because they're going to put fluids back into you to flush out, to clean the needles out and everything.
Describe just in very general terms, and it may not be the same every time. Are you just feeling sluggish before the dialysis treatment, or how do you feel? What I'm leading up to is before and after feeling.
When I go in, I feel fine, usually because you've had a day of rest or 2 days, depending on what day of the week it is. Afterwards, you're a little tired after the treatment. And I think, you just have to realize that in 4 hours, your body has been put through what your body would do in 48 hours, as far as your kidneys working. So you're tired, and that's where your dry weight comes in. When I recently had this procedure done last week, actually, they must have pumped a lot of fluids in me, and my weight was really, really high. I can only handle so much fluid being taken off of me. I've learned through the year, if we go much higher than that, when I leave, I'm dizzy, I'm winded, if too much fluid comes off. So I know what my max fluid is, and I still can function for the evening. I don't have to just come home and come to bed. Because there was so much fluid on me, it's taken over a week now to get this fluid off of, because of course your regular fluid is also being on there. So I hope this isn't too confusing. Fluid has a lot to do with how you're going to feel also.
What I take from what you just said, the amount of fluid buildup before dialysis can vary day to day.
Oh, absolutely. Depending on what you've eaten, how much you drank, you have to really watch your salt intake, because salt will retain fluids. Your diet has a lot to do with everything too. And at my dialysis center, they do check your blood once a month, and you get a report to let you know like how your protein is, your potassium, phosphates, how your dialysis treatments are going. So you get a regular report once a month on that. When I first started, my potassium was too low, which is unusual for people on dialysis. So I had to increase my potassium intake. So of course, that was like, yay for me, because I love potatoes. So, but then my potassium got too high because I overdid it. So I'm still working on finding that perfect happy medium where I'm getting enough potassium, but not too much. And that's things that, you learn as you're going along. And it's a constant learning process, I believe. I learn something new every day I go in there.
Do they put you on a diet? Do they give you a diet?
Well, they have suggestions. They're kidney-friendly suggestions. Primarily, the thing is to watch your sodium intake is the main thing. And some people have to watch their potassium. They have too much potassium. It's just every individual is different.
So before each dialysis treatment, your dry weight, every dialysis treatment is tailored very specifically to you for that 4-hour period. They know exactly, the dialysis treatment folks know exactly how much fluid to take off. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, we usually discuss it, and I usually tell them what I like to have taken off, because I know how to do the math, so to say, and I know how much is too much. So I usually say, this is how much I'd like to have taken off, or, what do you think? And we go from there.
You're not medically trained, so I'm going to guess you have learned through experience, empirical evidence. In other words, after X number of dialysis treatments, you feel whatever way you do, and you know how much fluid was taken off. So through somewhat of a trial and error process, don't exceed that amount. Is that right?
Right. Because for a while, my dry weight was about 0.5 lower than it is now. And when we would get me to that dry weight, I'd get home and I couldn't even walk into the kitchen from the car. I'd have to stop in the living room and sit down because I was winded, couldn't catch my breath. I was like, and finally Dr. Brown said, you know what, we're taking too much weight off of you, is what's happening here. So we upped it, and I haven't had that problem since then.
So the next day, how do you feel?
Usually I feel fine the next day. I sleep a lot longer than I used to, but I'm getting older too. So I don't know if, what has to do with what, but I sleep longer than I used to, but I usually get up and, I try to get things done around the house and do my normal routine, try to actually even get out of the house every now and then, which I didn't do for a couple of years.
The dialysis treatment itself, are you setting up in a chair? Are you laying down? Can you feel what's happening as the fluid is being drawn off of you?
You can't feel a thing. You can't even feel the needles in your arm.
Wow.
You don't feel anything. And you're in a recliner. So you can sit kind of you have to have your feet up. But you can, I always push mine back. I'm more comfortable because my bottom tends to get a little sore sitting up for that long of a period of time. So I have found laying back, my bottom doesn't get so sore. Fairly comfortable, not horrible.
In hindsight, I'm guessing you would think that, well, if I didn't have to go through dialysis treatment for what ostensibly is nearly 12 hours a week, you could be making better use of that 12 hours than to sit in a chair and get dialysis treatment and so forth. But now I'm thinking, well, if you had perfectly operating kidneys and so forth, now in your case, that's an irrational statement, because we're not, if I understand correctly, we're not going to reverse whatever kidney damage has occurred in our body.
Not until I get a transplant.
Are you on the list?
I'm working on it. I have one more thing to do to finish up, because they require a lot of tests for you to go through to get you on the list. And I'm very close. I have one more thing to do. And unfortunately, I tried to do it and it was expired. My order was expired. So I have to do it again. So I'm getting close. But yes, I'm working on that. Hopefully something will come through on that. But until then, I will keep going to dialysis because it's definitely improved my life.
I want to try to project, Elaine, for people of your personality, your disposition, and so forth. And I'm going to ask you a question that your response could be very different for you than it would be for someone else. For someone just like Elaine, is there something if I were in the medical community, is there something we can do better to prepare you for the dialysis treatment? Because you did have some apprehension. You may have responded to this earlier that, hey, it is what it is, and you just have to experience it.
Yeah, I don't know what really could be done, because it's like anything else. When you don't know what's going to happen, you're always going to have a little apprehension. Like your first day on a new job, any type of thing that you do that you've never done before, you always have a little little anxiety over it. Once you do it and you get over that first step, well, hey, this isn't so bad. I can do this 3 times a week and everything is going to be just fine.
Now, when I ask a similar question in the context of a caregiver, you're the parent of, or whatever, or maybe a child of, you're doing your best to prepare this person for upcoming dialysis treatments. They too don't know what to expect. It's an unknown world. They know something about whatever they've read and so forth. As you were explaining, you're always going to have some sort of apprehension. Is there anything from your perspective that we can do from the perspective of a caregiver to help a person prepare themselves mentally, emotionally, or anything of that nature?
I don't know. The only time I've been a caregiver, so to say, was when my mom got sick and she had to go for cancer treatments. But my mom had kind of like the attitude I do because, it was something she knew she had to do to live. You just have to do it. Once you do it once, then, okay, this isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. So I can do this again because it's going to help me live and have a productive life.
Elaine has a very positive experience with dialysis. She entered the treatment process not knowing what to expect. She had some natural anxiety, but as she got into it, she's learned this is a great quality of life. Any fears and apprehensions she may have had were mostly because of the unknowns, but everything has turned out very well. She has a great quality of life. But how do you know where you are relative to your kidney function and how things are going? I have learned it's through a blood test, and it's creatinine. Your blood is your indication of how well you are functioning. I have learned through personal experience you will not have symptoms early on of your kidneys failing. It's only after your kidneys are significantly degraded that you will have symptoms. My encouragement is get blood tests, know where you are, and make modifications as you need to, and possibly you can avoid dialysis. And so a quality of life right now, as you are going through dialysis treatment, I'm going to call this an interim period. With you having the kidneys you are necessarily going through 3 days a week of dialysis treatment. I would believe you have the hope that you will find a kidney donor, but you're in this in-between state. That's a term that I use. Describe your quality of life. Do you feel, you're actually, in spite of the kidneys, you're doing quite well? Or is there a quality of life that you feel has maybe degraded a little bit?
Fortunately, I was able to retire from my job with a disability. I'm fortunate that I don't have to go to work because I think it would be very difficult. There's a lot of people in dialysis that do still work, and I think that would be hard. Going to dialysis is almost like having a job that you have to go to. So I'm not exactly sure if I've answered your question because I kind of forgot what it was. But
no, it has to do with the quality of life. But
yeah,
you're at a point where you have the choice. Marty and I use the choices that you have. While maybe nobody can prepare themselves for dialysis per se, but we all know everybody is getting older. We all know that at some point we will not want to work, but that's a financial choice. It appears you have made good choices throughout life, that you have the choice not to have to work right now. So that very definitely affects in a positive way your quality of life.
Right. And like I said, I was very fortunate to have a wonderful job, and they supported me and helped me for many years that I was sick and missing a lot of work, and help me get the disability. So I don't have to worry about finances or anything like that. We're in good shape that way. The only downfall with my dialysis is that I've developed a fear of driving over the Solomon's Bridge because I do live in Hollywood. And so my husband drives me to dialysis and then comes and picks me up. So for him, it's not been very good quality of life. But for me, it has definitely improved my quality of life because I do feel so much better.
I'm curious because I'm just naturally curious.
Okay.
Is your fear of bridges dialysis related, or can you project back 40 years ago and say I've always had a fear of bridges?
Nope, nope. This is something that's happened since I've gotten older. I've driven over that bridge a million times. And now I don't know what happened to me in the past 3 or 4 years before dialysis. I just have this weird, I don't know. And it's not only Solomon's Bridge, I do it over the Benedict Bridge too. So it's just, and I don't mind being in the passenger seat. I'm fine. I don't know. It's a weird phobia.
No, that's fine. And for our listeners who are not familiar with these two bridges, the larger bridge is maybe 100 feet above the water. The Benedict Bridge that she referred to is, who knows, maybe 15, 20 feet above the water. Two different bridges, but there are some of us who think about, well, what if I would blow a tire and I would all of a sudden veer off and we'd be in the water. Am I going to survive this, or am I going to drown, and so forth? But that perception, well, you can't determine for certain. Was it
Right.
age? Was it just life experience? Or was it dialysis? It's just the way it
Yeah.
is.
It's not dialysis. It happened long before dialysis.
Okay.
It just got worse and worse through the years. And finally, I would be like, one of those old ladies driving about 20 miles an hour trying to get over that bridge. And I said, you know what? This is not fair to other people. I can't do this anymore.
Does your insurance take care of this?
My insurance does, but like I said, I had a really good job and really good insurance. A lot of the people, Medicare does cover dialysis, but with my insurance, of course, my insurance company is pushing me to get on Medicare, but I know what the law is, and I have 30 months before I have to apply to Medicare. So I'm taking advantage of that because my company pays a lot of money to that insurance company.
Elaine, I want to ask you what may be a very unfair question because you never know, but thinking back X number of years, my understanding is you've been under Dr. Brown, a nephrologist's care for nearly 15 years. And can you think back 15 years ago, were your kidneys continuously deteriorating? And what I'm building up to is, if you would have known then what you know now, could you have avoided the dialysis, the kidney failure that you're experiencing right now? And again, I acknowledge that may be a very unfair question.
Sure. If I'd have known Crestor, I was allergic to Crestor and wouldn't have taken it, I wouldn't have taken it. When I started dialysis, I was probably taking about 14 blood pressure pills a day, and I take none now.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
14.
Well, yeah, I had very high blood pressure and just trying to get it under control. I was on so many different kinds of medications. And as we've gone through dialysis through this time, we've cut back to where now I take no blood pressure medication. I also like to say that when I started dialysis, I was diabetic, and I am no longer diabetic.
Wow, that is a huge positive testimony.
Yes.
Our listeners are going to be very interested in knowing, was it dialysis itself that took you off and regulated your blood pressure and your sugar levels, or was it diet that I'm always after cause and effect?
Well, I haven't really, changed my diet because I've been watching my sodium for years, so I haven't really changed any of that. I've lost some weight, but not like a huge amount of weight. I just think having functioning kidneys is what has helped it. Or having, that dialysis machine is like a functioning kidney. And so I'm sure that's making me feel so much better too. I'm not taking all that medication. I mean, it would take me an hour to fill up my week-long pills, And so now I don't, a few medications I take, and it's really decreased, and I'm pretty happy about that. Dialysis has done a lot for me.
What Elaine just described, I've seen happen to many people when Fluid is well controlled with dialysis. It's quite common that you don't need as many blood pressure medicines. And it's often very common that people who have diabetes, their blood sugar control becomes much better because your kidney gets rid of insulin from your body. And when your kidney's not working, your body doesn't get rid of as much insulin. So you have more insulin to control your blood sugars naturally. So it's very common with good fluid control, blood pressure becomes better controlled with dialysis.
I want to talk briefly about kidney transplant. Based on everything you have said to this point, and more specifically, the fact dialysis machine has taken you off blood pressure medication with a kidney transplant, and with Dr. Brown's help and other people, do you have reason to believe that with a kidney transplant, you're off dialysis, you're off blood pressure medicine, you are off cholesterol medication, and you're, to a degree, starting out a whole new life?
Pretty much. Now I am on cholesterol medicine right now because my cholesterol is more of a genetic thing than I think a diet thing, because even when I was in my 20s and it was a toothpick, I had high cholesterol. I just think it's just genetically in me. But so I take fish oil derivative that Dr. Brown approved for me to take, because I won't take anything without her approval. Once I get a kidney, who knows what'll happen with me. I'm hoping I would stay on the same path and not go back to being the way things were.
It's very possible after kidney transplant, if the transplanted kidney is working well, your blood pressure control will stay the same and you might not need more medication for that. You will need medication to stop the kidney from rejecting. So after kidney transplant, there are a number of medications that get started that you generally take for the rest of your life. Some of those medicines sometimes make blood sugar harder to control. It is possible you might need more blood sugar controlling medicine after kidney transplant.
The kidney transplant, you mentioned you have one more step to, I'm going to use the term fully qualify. Do the doctors, and there's probably no way of projecting, but do you have any guess how long a period it might be before you can get a kidney transplant?
It just depends. I am going to try to reach out and try to find a living donor. How successful that will be, I don't know. You got to try, because you don't know how long it might take. You have to wait for a cadaver. It could take many years, or it sometimes doesn't take very long at all. So I'm just hoping. I'm going to try social media and try to reach out and see if I can find myself a living donor.
And I want to address that just a little bit from empirical evidence. A living person in our church donated a kidney to a person in your condition. And I'm going to be very elementary in my explanation. The living person laid on the table beside the person needing a kidney transplant. They opened up the back and retrieved a kidney from the living person, transplanted it immediately to the person needing the kidney. The person who donated the kidney got sewn up, and rather than having two kidneys, he's operating on one. And today, the person who donated that kidney functions just as if he had two kidneys. It's almost as if, and here I am with a very elementary explanation, God designed us with the extra capacity of having two kidneys when in fact we can function on one. The person who accepted the transplanted donated kidney had just a little bit of an adjustment, and I don't think it's anything more than an adjustment, but he is doing great. And
yes.
And so for a person who may be apprehensive about, goodness, how can I, a living person, just donate a kidney? That's it's going to significantly reduce my lifestyle and change and so forth. Apparently, it does not at all. For whatever encouragement this podcast can be, certainly consult your doctors, and it has to be the right match and so forth. But to the living kidney donor, we can function very well with just one kidney.
That's right. That's how we're made, to just need one kidney.
That's just amazing how God designed us, and wow.
Well, that's all that wisdom.
Yes. Elaine, thank you for sharing. Thank you for being
Okay.
very open and vulnerable. And thank you for sharing your life. And we want to help those who may be very apprehensive about dialysis to know that all will be well and this time will pass. And even if you don't get a kidney transplant, you can still have a great quality of life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I definitely recommend, rather than being sick all the time, go to dialysis and feel better.
Great. Elaine, thank you for sharing. And
Okay,
we'll make this podcast available to as many people who want to listen to it.
Okay, that would be great. I appreciate it. And I appreciate letting me share my story.
Thank you. Elaine has a very positive testimony for the caregiver and the person facing dialysis. She did have some apprehension, but in fact, after having experienced dialysis, she has a great quality of life. Before going into the dialysis treatments, she was run down, but she has vibrance now that she has not had prior to dialysis. All of this has been a very positive experience. She wants to tell others who are facing dialysis, not a big deal, just do it. And for the caregiver who is preparing the person for dialysis, just let them know it can be a very positive experience. So again, how do you know what your kidney function is to know if you are headed for dialysis or just what you are facing? I am not medically qualified. I have learned it is creatinine that is an indication of how well your kidneys are functioning. There is a range, depending on your age, that should be normal for you. Consult your family physician or a nephrologist to determine if your creatinine is at a good level, or in a comparative sense over a period of time, are your kidneys degrading? Are they slowing down? There are things that can be done to help stop the deterioration of your kidneys should you be facing that type situation. I'm not qualified to tell you what to do, but I do recommend you consult your family physician, a nephrologist. They can tell you what actions you can take to slow down a deteriorating kidney condition. I don't know that any deterioration is repairable, but your physician, your nephrologist can tell you. The point of this podcast is primarily to let those know of what to expect from a person who is experiencing this. Elaine will soon be, she hopes, a candidate for a kidney transplant. And with a kidney transplant, she should be able to fully function and return to a normal life, possibly without at least a reduced amount of medication, and will be able to return to a fully functioning person, not having to endure the dialysis treatments. Again, for her, she is 3 treatments a week, approximately 4 hours each. She is tired after each treatment, but it's a very positive experience given the kidney condition she has. Let's learn together. Let's share experiences. Let's pass information on to others who are experiencing the possibility of having to enter dialysis, or if you're a caregiver and you are the one preparing a person for dialysis, refer them to this podcast and Elaine's experience to help them at least reduce, not sure that we can avoid, but at least reduce apprehension about dialysis. We hope you will want to share this podcast with everyone within your circle of influence, your LinkedIn connections, your Facebook friends, your Twitter and Instagram communities. The more we share, the greater information we can pass out to others and make them aware of kidneys, the dialysis treatment, and help people to have a quality of life for which they deserve. Elaine will tell you her dialysis treatment has been very positive. There's no reason to be extremely apprehensive nor to have a degraded quality of life because you fear dialysis. Let's share with each other. Let's get the information out. Let's work with each other. We look forward to working with you.